Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Bachelor's Degree Program, Elective Course, Rural Development, BRDE 101 Rural Development, Indian Context, Block 3 Nature and Process of Development, Unit 3, Extension and Community Development. 3.0 Aims and Objectives. This unit aims at introducing you to concept of extension and community development. We shall make you familiar with objectives, principles and philosophy of community development in India. After studying this unit, you should be able to write genesis of term extension and common. 1 Ruti development. State objectives of community development. Describe principles of community development. Write the philosophy of community development. Write important features of community development and possible reasons of its failure. 3.1 Introduction. Extension has been considered as the most acceptable strategy for rural development in a developing country like India. Extension aims at bringing about a change in human behavior. The clientele of extension is farmers, home women and rural youth, whose behavior is to be changed in respect of knowledge, skills and attitudes, and hence extension is a form of education for them. In the pre-independence period there was no organized program for rural people from government, but some individual/group, community initiatives had been done for extension in India. During first 5-year plan, Community Development (CD) program was started as first organized government program for development of rural people, economically, socially and culturally. In spite of various limitations, Community Development Program was successful to some extent in developing a strong infrastructure for implementation of further development programs. 3.2 Genesis and concept of extension. The word extension derived from the Latin root sex meaning out and tension meaning stretching. Extension is that type of education which is stretched out to the people in the rural areas far and near, beyond the limits of the education to which the formal type of education is usually confined. The concept of extension education, originated in British universities, was extended to take the benefits of university education to the places where ordinary people live and work. Cambridge University introduced the term extension education for the first time in 1873. Meaning of the word extension is the act of extending or the state of being extended. In the context of diffusion of agricultural information to the farmers, Voorhees, 1894, was the first to use the word extension. In fact, in the United States of America, extension work started when Dr. Seaman A. Knapp organized educational campaigns to control bolt weevil insect during the period from late 1880s to the first decade of 1900. Formally, the term agricultural extension was adopted in the United States of America when the Smith-Lever Act was passed in 1914. Extension education is the extension of the results of research to the persons who are in need of it. Extension means to extend or to spread or to disseminate useful information and ideas to rural people to bring out desirable changes in human behavior in terms of its knowledge, skill and attitudes. Extension education is the strategy and method for achieving sustainable development. It is a system of service and education designed to meet the needs of the people. It is the democratic approach for development, which has been adopted in all democratic countries including India, where participation of people in the development process is voluntary. The behavior of the people, the knowledge, attitudes and skills have to be changed not by ordering but by educating and motivating them for active participation in development process. 3.3 Earlier extension efforts in India. In ancient and medieval period, India was predominantly rural, where villages were self-contained, self-sufficient and self-governed units. It had limited the scope of change and opportunities for social welfare. The social system itself used to take care of individual requirements. This arrangement was disturbed by the invasions of foreigners. Such a situation compelled people to realize the need for the work related with rural reconstruction. Colonial rulers were not interested in initiating programs of rural reconstruction, but series of famines from 1875 to 1901 forced the colonial government to appoint some commissions to examine the problems and to suggest remedies. They recommended some work related to rural development. Consequently, several acts like Land Improvement Loan Act, Agricultural Loans Act of 1888, Cooperative Act of 1904, and further the amendment in the Cooperative Act in 1912, establishment of development departments like agriculture, animal husbandry and veterinary, irrigation etc. came into existence. During this period, some irrigation projects were taken up to control famines. In 1935, the rural development work was transformed as a provincial subject, and as a result of this, several provinces established their rural construction departments or village uplift boards. These departments started some rural development activities and obtained funds from the central government for their work. But these development departments could not take up any comprehensive program. Their activities were not based on detailed studies of program planning, the needs and resources of the people, drudging of people, food shortage, poverty, illiteracy and prevalent social evils in our society led the social reformers, missionaries and British government during pre-independence period to initiate development/extension efforts for the welfare of the rural people. These efforts differed in emphasis, approach, methodology, aims and objectives evolved out of certain necessities. The earlier efforts of Shantiniketan, Gandhian Constructive Program, Gurgaon Project, Marthandam Project, Indian Village Service, Sarvodayas, Itawa Pilot Project and Nilo Khedi Project made specific contributions, and experiences gained through these were included as guiding principles to start a nationwide community development program on 2nd of October 1952 by the Government of India. Check your progress. 1. Note: I. Give your answer in the space given below for each question. 2. Check your answer with the preceding text. 1. What are major types of extension? 2. What are major objectives of extension? 3.4 Community development. For proper understanding of community development, it is necessary that you should have a clear understanding of the word community and development. Let us try to conceptualize the terms. Community. The term community has been defined in various ways. Some of the definitions are as following. According to Kingsley Davis, community is the smallest territorial group that can embrace all aspects of social life. According to Truro H. Parsons, a community may be defined as a group or collection of groups that inhabit a delimited geographical area and whose members live together in such a way that they share the basic conditions of common life. The important features of a community are as following. 1. Territorial character. A community is always considered in relation to a physical environment of a territory. 2. Powerful stint of special attachment. It lays foundation of attachment to a particular community. 3. Common life. Life of the people in a community is near about the sum. Due to inhabitation of members of the community in a particular geographical area, they develop a kind of emotional and cultural uniformity. 4. Community feeling. This sentiment is developed through socialization process. 5. Feeling of oneness. Community participation gives rise to a feeling of oneness. 6. Community has a particular name. Development. Development means gradual and step-by-step progress. McIver used the word development to signify an upward course in a process that is increasing differentiation. When one T is used in conjunction with community, it refers to enhancing the potential abilities of the people who live together in a community. The 1948 Cambridge Conference defined development as a movement designed to promote better living for the whole community with the active participation and, if possible, on the initiative of the community. But if this initiative is not forthcoming spontaneously, then by use of techniques for arousing and stimulating it in order to secure its active and enthusiastic response to the movement. According to United Nations, community development (11b) defined as a process designed to create conditions of economic and societal progress of the whole community with its active participation and the fullest possible reliance upon the community initiation. Community development has been described as a process of change from the traditional way of living of rural communities to progressive ways of living, as a method by which people can be assisted to develop themselves by their own capacity and resources, as a program for accomplishing certain activities in fields concerning the welfare of the rural people, and as a movement for progress with a certain ideological content. 3.5 Community Development Program. The pilot program was started on October 2, 1952. It aimed at finding out how people reacted to it and what constraints were encountered in this movement. Each of the 55 community projects covered about 300 villages with an area of about 450 to 500 square miles and with a population of about 2 lakhs. Each project area was divided into 3 development blocks. A development block consisted of about 100 villages and a population of 60,000 to 70,000. Each block in turn was divided into groups of 5 to 10 villages each. Each group formed the field of operation for a village-level worker, VLW. To begin with, only areas with a short rainfall and facilities for irrigation and soil suitable for giving quick returns were selected. The project suffered from several handicaps which retarded the pace of progress. 3.5.1 Objectives of Community Development. Major objectives of community development programs were as follows. 1. Development of material and human resources in the area and thereby raise the rural community to higher levels of living. 2. Achievement of increased production by the application of scientific know-how to the rural occupation of animal husbandry, agriculture, cottage industries, etc. 3. Provision of opportunities for full employment to the underemployed and unemployed rural population. 4. Creation of more living activities mainly through the efforts of the concerned communities, by making them to devote their unutilized energies and spare time. 5. Improvement of health and sanitation, provision of housing facilities and promotion of educational and other social activities. 6. Provision for proper communication facilities. 7. Changing mental outlook, creation of ambition for higher standard. 8. Development of self-reliance and harmonious village communities. 9. The fundamental or basic objective of community development in 1DI is the development of people. The broad objectives are economic development, social justice and democratic growth. 3.5.2 Philosophy of Community Development. The philosophies on which the Community Development Program was based were as follows. 1. Work based on felt needs. The program should help the community to solve some of TBE problems which it feels are existent. 2. Work based on assumption that people want to be free from poverty and pain. It is assumed that the members of the community want a standard of living that allows them to be free from pain caused by lack of sufficient food, lack of sanitary conditions, clothing and shelter. On the social side, it is assumed that the people have 4 wishes, i.e. A. Security, B. Recognition, C. Response and D. New experiences. 3. Freedom to control their institutions. It is assumed that people wish to have freedom in controlling their own lives and deciding the forms of economic, religious, educational and political institutions under which they will live. 4. People's values given due consideration. It is presumed that cooperation, group decision-making, self-initiative, social responsibility, leadership, trustworthiness and ability to work are included in the program. 5. Self-help. The people actually plan and work on the solution of their problems themselves. If the problems of the community are entirely ameliorated through the efforts of some outside agency, then the development of such things as group decision-making, self-initiative, self-reliance, leadership, etc. will not be forthcoming, and it cannot be said that the community is developing. 6. People are the greatest resource. It is by getting the participation of the people in the development activities which they are going to initiate. 7. The program involves a change in attitudes, habits, ways of thinking, relationships among people in the level of knowledge and intellectual advancement of people, changes in their skills, i.e. practices of agriculture, health, etc. 3.5.3 Principles of Community Development. The United Nations, in a report on the concepts and principles of community development, set forth 10 such principles. These principles are applicable to most part of the world. These are following. 1. Activities undertaken must correspond to the basic needs of the community. The first project should be initiated in response to the expressed needs of the people. 2. Local improvement may be achieved through unrelated efforts in each substantive field. However, full and balanced program requires concerted action and establishment of multi-purpose programs. 3. Changes in the attitudes of people are as important as material achievements of community projects. During the initial stages of development, the people should be changed educationally to bring a change in their farming, homemaking and health. 4. Community development aims at better participation of people. 5. The identification, encouragement and training of local leadership should be the basic objective in any program. 6. Much emphasis have been given to participation of women and youth in community development program. 7. To make self-help projects fully effective for communities, both intensive and extensive assistance from the government is required. 8. Implementation of community development program on national scale requires adoption of consistent policies, specific administrative arrangements, recruitment and training of personnel, mobilization of local and national resources. 9. The resources of voluntary organizations should be fully utilized in community development programs at local and national level. The voluntary organization can promote a spirit of service in people. 10. Economic and social progress at the local level necessitates parallel development on a wider national scale. The rate of progress that can be achieved by the process of community development is slow to raise the awakening in underdeveloped countries. Community development methods do not produce quick results, and process of change is slow and difficult. The rate of progress will get faster as success is achieved and human development takes place. Its success can be guaranteed at best by the effective follow-up. 3.5.4 Critical analysis of community development program. 1. The program remained largely a government-administered program with people's participation and failed to become a people's program with assistance from government agencies. 2. There has been too much emphasis on end results and less emphasis in following the correct methods and process to bring about change in the attitudes of the people. 3. Due to lack of understanding about the objectives of the community development program, there has often been lack of adherence to the real objectives. 4. The achievements, whatsoever, have not been used to restore and revive the confidence the people in themselves, in the government machinery and in the program as a whole. 5. Extension education methods, which are essential for a democratic approach, remain generally a claim. 6. Lack of uniform understanding about the concept, principles, methods, role, functions, etc. at all levels from village to national level created confusion in the implementations of community development program. 7. Community development programs suffer due to lack of proper and adequate supervision and guidance, both administrative and technical at various levels. 8. Community development program failed to replace autocratic authority by establishing superiority of democratic leadership. 9. The community development workers at all levels were not happy due to various reasons. Their morale was not very high. In such a situation, unhappy workers or change agents cannot make a good organization. 3.5.5 Limitations. 1. Most of the people are still illiterate, and it is a difficult task to train about 640 million people living in about 6 lakh villages. For such a population, the extension methods like demonstration, individual approaches, exhibitions, group meetings and training classes requires thousands of extension workers. 2. Lack of communication channels, especially mass media, absence of television, 1 or 2 broadcasting radio stations in each state covering vast areas, lack of radio sets and transistors, lack of roads, lack of vehicles etc. are major limitations in community development program. 3. Lack of funds, facilities and staff for training fanners were main hurdles in community development program. In some backward states, the agricultural extension officers, the veterinarians etc. have to act as technical advisors for about 180 villages the size of block area. Besides their extension activities in villages, the extension workers are required to do some administrative and clerical jobs also, and this reduces their working days. 4. A traditional society, with old ways and practices, does not want to take risk unless it sees the results. Because change creates insecurity and uncertainty, so there was resistance in early years. 5. In an illiterate, traditional society, the real leadership could not come forward. People with vested interest tried to get advantage by fooling the real client system and the extension agency. 6. Preaching to rural people and educating them in new practices require very careful handling and need highly skilled workers who have knowledge of how change takes place. It is very difficult to produce large number of such workers. 7. In the beginning, such imitations may not have been realized and objectivities were very vaguely formulated, thus, a wide gap between proclaimed objectives and actual achievements attracted public criticism, which led further to the weakening of the support to community development. 8. The changeover from an attitude of heavy dependence on the government to one of self-dependence occurred very slowly. Major factors behind it were insufficient number of properly trained personnel and weakness in the supply line in the initial stages. It contributed to the disappointment among the people. Check your progress too. 1. What are the objectives of community development program? 2. Write any 5 individual 1/group/community initiatives for extension were taken up during pre-independence period. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 3.6 National Extension Service, NES. In 1953, the National Extension Service, NES, program was launched with the idea of having wider coverage at less cost and more people's participation. Each NES block had about 100 villages with about 65,000 population. The NES block was headed by a block development officer, BDO, and had a number of extension officers. NES was thought of as the Agency on Community Development, CD, as the method to bring about socio-economic transformation of the rural people, with limited funds and personnel. It was a major development in the sphere of rural reconstruction in India. Since the basic idea underlying both the CD and NES program was the same, the two were integrated under one agency at the center as well as in the states. Both the programs were complementary and interwoven and ran concurrently. After 3 years, the blocks covered under NES were converted into CDP blocks. As far as administrative setup was concerned, the block office had a block development officer, BDO, as the head, assisted by extension officers in agriculture, EOA, animal husbandry, EOAH, cooperation, EO cooperative, industries, EO industries, rural engineering, EO rural engineering, sanitary inspector, social education organizer, SEO, and normally 10 multi-purpose village level workers. The extension officers were responsible for technical program implementation and were placed administratively under the control of BDO. In spite of its some shortcomings, Community Development Program was considered as a vast program of directed rural social change. 3.7 Let us sum up. In this unit we have discussed the historical development of extension in India. Extension-type programs were initiated during the BRDE.sh period by great leaders, social reformers, missionaries etc. These efforts included Shantiniketan, Gandhian Constructive Program, Gurgaon Project, Marthondam Project, Indian Village Service, Itawa Pilot Project, and Nilokheri Project. These efforts differed in size, approach, methodology, aims and objectives and largely evolved out of certain necessities perceived by the initiators. The experiences gained through these programs, especially for increasing production and income and seeking people's participation with social justice for removal of drudgery especially from downtrodden, were used as guiding principles by the Government of India to start a nationwide community development program during 1952. CD program was started as a multi-sectorial program for developing the rural community, was added National Extension Service, in order to bring about the entire country under the development network. In spite of having various limitations like lack of the participation of farmers, trickle-down approach, lack of attention to farming, lack of motivation and morale among extension workers, poor input support system etc., CD program was successful to build up a strong infrastructure to implement further extension and development programs in India. 3.8 Keywords. Education. Education is the process of bringing desirable change into behavior of human beings. It can be defined as the process of imparting and acquiring knowledge and habits through instruction or study. Philosophy. Philosophy in the original and wider sense is the pursuit of wisdom, or knowledge of things and their causes, both theoretical and practical. It is also defined as moral wisdom. Principles. A principle is a statement of policy to guide decision and action in a consistent manner. Objectives. Objectives are expression of the ends towards which our efforts are directed. Community. It is a group of people who live in a geographical area and have an interest in each other. Extension. Extension is education and its purpose is to change the attitude and practices of the people with whom work is done. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.